What's going on, everybody? It's your boy ptkblam back in the building with another episode of the Shop Podcast. We are back here another beautiful Sunday afternoon. As you guys can see, we are down one of the three amigos. Shout out to Pong. He is out of town right now, I believe, but shout out to him, man. Much love to Pong, man. He will be back next week, though, man. But shout out to him. But we do have the other half of Living Split Screen essentially to take his place this week, man. I don't know if he has his clothes all on or not this week, man. But you never know with Steel. You never know with Steel, man. But how you doing, Steel, man? I appreciate you coming through. I know I sent that bat signal a little late, but you came through in the clutch for your boy, man. How you been? What you been up to, man?
Hey man, I don't always frequent the streets naked. I just like to put that out there to get the people thinking.
I hope
gotta
not.
keep
Please,
thinking.
God. Yeah.
Gotta keep people on their toes, man. But nah, man, I've been doing good. Everything's been rocking and rolling. Work's been driving me up a wall a little bit, but that's okay. We constantly get to it. And when you're in the world of just dealing with people, man, you never know what you can get on a day-to-day basis. But yeah, man, getting gaming in. As always, Gears Reloaded has had me back in my getting back in the gym bag, that feeling of not being quite where you used to be back in the day.
Yeah.
Also, the game has evolved over the years as well.
True.
Playing OG Gears, it's different, especially on the multiplayer aspect. I can go on a whole diatribe like I did on Living Split Screen about how I used to give it up back in the day, and I think it's like the easiest example of competitive gaming on a non-MLG level of how we used to give it up. But yeah, man, just been having a good time gaming.
Awesome.
Continuing to get it in and ready to get it in for the show, man. So
appreciate you, man. Like I said, man, being the stopgap this week for Pong, man. Appreciate you coming through, man. We always got much love for you here, Steel. So you guys chat if you're watching now. Go ahead and follow Steel. Go ahead and follow Living Split Screen. Got great things happening over there, man. They always do a damn good job of getting the weekend started off right on Saturday morning. So go check them out. All of that information is down in the link in the description, man. Appreciate all of you, man. And last but not least, my other brother, Mr. Fuzzy Belvedere, man. How you been, Fuzz? What you been up to, man? How you feeling? What you been playing?
Oh yeah, I'm great. Glad to be here with you guys. Glad we got Steel here this weekend, and man, just been playing a lot of Diablo 4. I think you were the one that got me started back.
I know I did. I think I started a bit of a avalanche with that, man. You Blue been getting back into it a little bit, man. So it feels good though.
Oh yeah, I got me a nice lightning sorcerer build right now, and I'm trying to figure out how I can, get a few more things upgraded before I go to Torment 3. But yeah, I'm having fun. I need to get back to Division 2 and a ton of other games, some newer games that I don't know. I've been playing my old favorites, still playing some Forza Horizon 5. Hoping the rumors are true and everything. It looks like we're going to have it in Japan, but man, this is going to be that time where I hope they get everything right, and this might be a game of the generation kind of thing. But I'm not getting my hopes up just yet. I don't want to get too excited and then get disappointed.
Fuck that, man. Blow the top off that thing, man. You've been holding it in for years. Nah, for real though. No, but it's awesome just to even have the discussion. From going, I thought about this too, and I didn't bring it up last week when we were talking about it. We didn't know whether or not we were going to see anything Forza this year. So from going to like possibly not seeing anything Forza related at all in 25 and having to wait till next year to like almost like being 100% sure we're getting something Forza. Not only that, it's more than likely going to be Forza Horizon 6 in Japan. It's like one end of the spectrum to the other one, especially for people like you, Fuzz, that like really love for you and Mav. And I know that's an emotional roller coaster like a mother.
No, but it's everything's looking good in gaming right now. It's been a nice one, especially after Gamescom and stuff, and got some nice titles coming out this month or technically tomorrow. We're starting in September and stuff. So yeah, I'm gonna have a good conversation on some of that stuff coming up, and man, glad to be here with you guys.
Awesome, man. And just myself, I don't always make it known, but I've been playing a ton of Diablo too. I actually just got off the game a couple of hours ago, to be honest with you. So yeah, leveling up, still grinding, doing the damn thing. So if you hit me up, man, my gamer tag is down there as well too. You guys ever want to play some Diablo, Division 2, a few other games, hit me up, man. But we got a lot to talk about this week. Shout out chat, shout out to everybody watching live. What's up, Tim A? Shout out to everybody that's gonna be trickling in as the show goes on. I appreciate all of you guys. Make sure you retweet that link and let everybody know the Shop Podcast is live, man. But let's go ahead and get started here shortly on the show, man. And I got something we haven't talked about in a while, and it really excited me that we got something to talk about in relation to this particular game, and that is Starfield. Fuzz, we haven't talked about Starfield in a while, Fuzz. I just realized that I had to actually go back in the archives. It's been many months since we had a Starfield related topic, so it warms my heart. And so essentially we got some brand new information. Now, nothing concrete, but enough of a hint to get excited about Starfield again. So it is coming directly from Tim Lamb. I believe he's a creative director over there, Bethesda. He did a recent interview just talking about, obviously his history at Bethesda and some of the things he's worked on. But not only did he break that down, he also gave some hints and a little bit of tidbits on the potential future of Starfield. And man, did it feel good to finally kind of hear somebody who's in there, who's at the studio, say, hey, we're doing this. Because the last thing we know that there's roadmap for the game, but we haven't really heard anything since then as far as content. So bunch of rumors floating around, but I want to get you guys' quick opinion on it. We're gonna start with you, Steele. Just the future of Starfield, man. Like, what's the next step? Like, what are you wanting out of DLC? What do you think the next logical step for Starfield is, Steele? Because I know you enjoy the game, but you feel like I'm sure there could be so much more.
Oh man, what do I want out of Starfield? I did enjoy Starfield a lot. Starfield is the only real Bethesda game. Well, I won't say that, because Elder Scrolls Online is going to be, I would have to put number one, because that's what really got me to understand why people even like these games in the first place. It was really my more so first interaction with a Bethesda game, and experiencing what their worlds were like. But with Starfield, because I jumped into Fallout, tried Skyrim, those never grabbed me as much, although I did enjoy going through the modding process of Skyrim. And I've definitely spent more time modding Skyrim than I did actually ended up playing it. And people say that all the time, and it is funny that it does play out like that. But unfortunately, Skyrim didn't keep me. It's also a massive game, and I'm trying to get something Skyrim that just wasn't there. But with Starfield being more in line with a shooter, Space Odyssey kind of game, a lot of the things that I want from Starfield is kind of what we're seeing from No Man's Sky, right? And that was kind of things that were teased about Starfield that we thought were, maybe I had an expectation that some of that stuff was going to come a little bit sooner, versus what we're seeing like out of No Man's Sky. So for me,
First and foremost, I'm glad you shouted them out. I'm sorry to cut you off, and I do apologize, but I'm glad you shouted them out, because Hello Games has been cooking ever since No Man's Sky, since they have been probably the most consistent studio when it comes to content. And mind you, every single bit of content has been free. I don't think any of it's been paid, and it's been like game-changing content every single time. It almost reestablishes like the game, like the baseline of the game. And I agree with you as far as like a pure vision for Starfield, like what that would be. Now, once again, they're not the same game. Like they're from a physics standpoint, which are the things that they're trying to pull off in Starfield aren't the same as what they're attempting. It's really all about exploration, No Man's Sky, to be honest. It's about just going out there, doing what you want, flying all over the place, all these random planets and random events and random aliens you can find. Starfield's not necessarily that, but I get what you're saying though. I just wanted to throw that in there before you
Starfield, again, with it being Bethesda, it has the advantage of having more of the story focus, or more having something that's going to pull you back into the linear story, right? And even in Starfield, you have that adventure aspect, right? I mean, Paul comes all the time, and every time that you ask him about it, he's the guy who spent over 300 hours in Starfield and still hasn't beat the game yet. Isn't even close, right? Hasn't even made it halfway. He's been adventuring, getting this, exploration bag on. So that time can be spent there. For me, I didn't even return to Starfield with Shattered Space. And unfortunately, I'm at a point with Starfield that I probably would not end up going back. I don't typically tend to replay games, right? Especially when the initial experience I felt like I got enough out of.
Mm-hmm.
For me as well, I don't think that the whole time loop aspect of the game, right, without getting into too much spoiler territory or anything like that, did enough for me story wise to interest me. Right now, if they were bringing some, what I would like to see is maybe some more of those faction missions, because those were the things that I really did like a lot out of Starfield. I think those were the strongest parts, right? But none of that stuff really. It didn't really loop back into the game. And that's kind of the things that, as I played through the experience, that turned me off of it as I went through, at least by the time that I got to the end, and it's kind of established like, I don't really think I'm gonna go back to this. But I do want to see more, more SIP customization, because that was something that that really pulled me in deep. That again, I made my my clone trooper ship for my cargo hauler. And, you had to have my X-Wing that I made. I even made some videos for that stuff. So it's like seeing them implement more of that stuff, maybe some more base-oriented stuff. But the main thing is them finding more ways to take aspects of the side missions or any other story developments that they want to do, and looping that back in, or figuring out ways to put that into the story to make it feel a little bit more connected. So that, I mean, those are some of the main things that I would want to see out of Starfield moving forward. I outside of that, I don't know much else that I would want, just kind of being from the outside looking in at this point. So
no, that's fair. That's 100% fair. And like you said before, I think the big thing with Starfield, for me personally, like you said before, it's a gigantic canvas, right? And I think it is heavily story driven, although they do give you a gigantic canvas to kind of go anywhere, do anywhere. And I agree with you. You know what I mean? There are certain parts of Starfield that I would like them to expand upon. I can't really say, I was thinking about this too, as I always do when I'm sitting down trying to write out the questions for the week or figure out what topics we're going to talk about. And I kind of read through the article and kind of looked up a few things, and I just don't really know what I would want, you know what I mean, from Starfield, to be truthful. Like, what aspects of the game? I think it's very much like you, bigger side missions. It would just be more shit to do, I think, right? Like more stuff within the game. I mean, you have those cool physics, you have all of these worlds, just build upon what you already have, right? Bunch of quality of life stuff. Customization is always cool in a game like Starfield, because you can see your character, like you said, with the ships, things like that. Like you said, random side missions, more side missions, maybe a few more NPCs, maybe some newer factions, right?
I think
I would like oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say this, just to kind of be more specific. I think the main thing that I would like to see is maybe them taking a little bit more advantage of the procedural generation, is actually flush out the planets a little bit more, right?
Yeah,
because that was one of the number one complaints that people had, and to be real, part of when you go to each individual planet, that was one of the knock people had on it, was that, hey, it is repetitive in that way. Sure, you can explore, you'll find stuff, but it's not unique in the way it's like, oh, I went to planet Zeta Phi Alpha and I found this cool ray gun over here, and I went to this other planet and I found this cave that was over here that had all this cool stuff in it. You don't necessarily find a lot of that. You find a lot of repetitive kind of side missions or whatever the case, or points of interest that you run into. So maybe fleshing that out a little bit more, especially as we move further into the future. So I mean, that'll probably be the other thing that.
Well, the good thing about it too, and that's a great point. You know, some people have that take about Starfield, as far as, like I said, it's a gigantic, and that's part of the reason why I'm so excited about the future too, is because they did really leave a lot of room for things, right? They left a lot of space. Now I don't know, like, as far as technically space, but like, as far as like as far as what I'm looking at, like what you just said, there's a lot of room. There's a lot of meat on the bone there. There's a lot of cool things that they can do to fill in those gaps and kind of connect things a bit better. Like you said, planets, worlds, maybe more events, that happen randomly. Maybe they introduce, I don't know if weather would be something that they could even think of.
That'd be dope.
Well, I mean, I don't know how difficult that would be on so many different planets, but just different things, you know what I mean? Like you said, to just provide more action, just to give you more varied things to do, you know what I mean? Maybe because you can literally go do anything that you want in any order that you want. You know what I mean? So if I wanted to just go do some like farming shit and go play it like a cozy game, maybe
you can
just allow me to go do that, right? So or just play. And they do give you room. So that's the interesting thing about, like, they have this huge open canvas. They do have a great story with great characters, but how do you fill that in? So I want to throw this over to you, Fuzz, because I know you played Starfield day one. We all did, right? We enjoyed the hell out of the game, but seemingly there's going to be some updates coming. We know they've had a roadmap, but we really haven't heard anything in a while. And it was kind of cool that Tim came out and had a few little tidbits, nothing concrete, nothing to really point us in any direction, but they're working on it and they're really excited about it. So just where you at, anything you would want out of Starfield, what could you see them doing for more content?
Well, it's kind of weird right now because they got, 2 juggernaut titles within their walls that they're still trying to figure out how to get those across the finish line with Fallout 5 and Elder Scrolls 6. So I'm glad that there's still some stuff that's being worked on as far as DLC and things like that in the meantime, because it feels like Bethesda's stretched a little thin, having the hits that they have, trying to focus on all 3 of them at the same time. But the big thing for me in a dream world, I still want to say some sort of co-op option, or I kind of thought at some point they'll probably do an MMO version of Starfield. Have a console version that can compete with like Star Citizen on a grand scale kind of thing. I know that's a big ask, although looking at how long Star Citizen's been in basically beta
10
while I'm waiting for
alpha,
while I'm waiting for that single player story stuff too. It's like there's only a handful of things that I would like to see. Like I've been pretty happy with the overall game, although it feels like the base building could be a bigger tie-in, like depending on if you're going for like certain resources to build certain things or just have a certain amount of like cash flow or whatever. Yeah, the base building that's where it seems to be the most interesting, but a few more things base wise would be kind of cool. And I know you can have it where your bases sometimes get raided and you can set up defenses and stuff like that, but something that allows you to integrate or maybe I don't know, like something that would be more meaningful in the story related to the base building, other than I got to go protect this base for it being invaded, or I got to get a certain amount of resources out of this planet to build a better armor and stuff like that. So that would be one step. I would like to see a lot more modules for the ship customization. The ship customization in itself is great. With certain glitches, and those glitches kind of make it even better because certain components aren't really meant to work well together. But if you want your ship to look a certain way, you kind of have to glitch them together in a way. And I would hope that they can make it not necessarily easier to do stuff like that, but for design purposes, have it so you can recreate certain designs a little bit easier and not have it as bulky. Having to put like certain angled add-ons and things like that to build out certain like wings and whatnot for your ships. But I love that shipbuilding as is. It is. I could tell it's going to probably be hard to get that exact persistence that would be cool where you're designing the inside as well, which you can kind of do, but it's very finicky. And a lot of times you wind up clearing the hull of all of the stuff you've stored or whatever, and then it messes with the persistent stuff in the ship and things like that. So if you wanted to put like the little toy satellite on your captain's desk kind of thing, and then you go back and it's like, where is it? Oh, it's in the hole now instead of where I put it. If they could figure out a way that's not as resource heavy, that you can kind of do that stuff. I mean, these are just, I would say, more so nitpicks, but little things like that they could tweak. And then me being the knucklehead that I was having 5 playthroughs that I was playing at the same time, and 2 of them broke. One of them broke where the floor in the main base on the main like Earth like world or whatever, the main place where the UC are and stuff like that. The landing pad area, there's no floor. I mean, the floor that's supposed to be there is invisible, and you fall through down to the ground. It's like it really breaks everything in that area. And even progressing in the story where the certain creature appears in that area, and it still didn't fix that. So that made it even harder playing it with that. And then the other break in a game that I had, somehow I got into, and I know spoilers, if you haven't made it to Starborn or know what Starborn is, just cover your ears for right now. Encountered them, got on their ship while they were coming out, and ever since then, I now have a Starborn ship, but the problem is all other enemies. You know how like sometimes they land near you and then they try to attack you, or you see them, you go over, and you attack them, type of thing. They won't come out the ship now. I broke something trying to break into the ship while they were coming out. Now I can't get any of the enemies to get off the ship in that playthrough. Like the other 3 playthroughs are fine. But yeah, those 2, I just wish that there was a fix without me having to go back to a previous save, which I've deleted a lot of the older saves to make space. Cause I think on console, you can only have something like 25 different instances as far as saves. And on PC, you can have 100 and something, but it seems like they fill up rather quick with the auto save and progress save or manual save and stuff like that. But yeah, I would like to see co-op.
Co-op
I don't know how they can. I don't know how they can integrate that, but that I think to me would be pretty cool. Because just imagine we all have our custom ships that we created, and we're flying like an armada of ships against maybe the Crimson Fleet, or maybe we're a part of the Crimson Fleet and we're going on in a separate from the storyline full-on battle kind of thing with the UC or something. I think things like that would be pretty cool. And just more story stuff like Shattered Space for me wasn't bad. I know a lot of people felt it wasn't enough of a story stuff that they added, but if they have the resources or the manpower to be able to produce, let's say, an annual DLC, like story-based type thing, that would be kind of cool. Although I know deep down having those types of resources might wind up taken away from either a Starfield 2 or a Starfield MMO. So I don't know if I want to go completely, suggest that should be the plan as opposed to some other stuff that they might have going. But yeah, I just more things that we don't have to rely on the customization. Like I know they can't do, well, I would say can't. I know they probably won't do like direct licensing with Star Wars or anything like that. There have been mods where people have made
like that. Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah.
But it'd be kind of cool if they gave that a try or made things that wouldn't get them necessarily sued that are similar. I mean, I've seen a lot of like user made things like lightsabers, although they can't call them lightsabers and stuff like that. But yeah, just those little things that, will probably get people interested in, maybe trying some things different, because I think in the beginning, the energy weapons or the lasers and things like that, it didn't seem like they put as much effort into as opposed to a lot of their other weaponry and things like that. There weren't that many more levels that you could increase it or arc options that you would kind of expect. I mean, they have it where some ammo is targeting, customer or not customers, but targeting NPCs around corners and stuff. It would be nice if the arc weapons could do something similar as well. But yeah, had a ton of fun with it. It was great to see the director, talk about upcoming updates.
Yeah,
glad we're hearing something from him, because I know that
right. It's been a while.
Yeah, the Starborn stuff I think leaked, as far as maybe the next DLC being something Starborn related. Leaked. It feels like now almost a year ago, like just after Shattered Space was released. It seemed like that's when they that information had leaked. So I'm glad that they're working on some stuff. Cool. Looking forward to what they are expecting to release. But I have a gut feeling Colin Moriarty is going to be right, and it was one of the
PS5 as well too. I mean, listen, I think we're over that hump at this point. It wouldn't be surprising, and I dare somebody to run out and throw a party for the announcement if it does happen. Because at this point, they've been doing it. They've done it to basically all of their outside of the major first party games tentpoles. People should be used to it. When that announcement does come, if and when, it shouldn't be surprising at that point in time. Like, it shouldn't be surprising at all. We just seen Gears hit PlayStation. Like, come on now, so.
No, but he was just the one guy I didn't want to be right, because it was like, everybody just knew that was going to
Yeah,
PlayStation.
yeah.
Like, there's no way they could, and it's like it's been the longest holdout.
He's right, but it wasn't the same reason though.
realistic.
He didn't have for the same exact reason, because it wasn't it like I don't think the reason was the same. I think obviously there was an entire company pivot, right? Once the ABK thing was done, but that was before. I believe that was pre ABK that he had that take, so he didn't take into account any of that prior to. But yeah. So he's right. Yes, he will be right if it does happen, but not for the same reason that he thought. I think it happened for a different reason, I believe. Don't want to give him too much credit.
I'll be curious to see if some of the news outlets' initial takes or reviews might change a bit, because that DualSense made I was about to call it Half-Life. What's the one from Tango?
Good Lord. Help me out.
I'm having a brain fart.
I'm having a brain fart my damn self. Come on, Steel, where you at? I know.
I'm sure you got me beat.
The sound game, the Hi-Fi Rush.
Yeah.
Hi-Fi Rush.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, because there were a lot of people that were like, "Oh, the DualSense made it just clicked better while it's playable on my preferred platform." It's like I'm just waiting to see those types of reviews. Oh, it's no longer an IGN 7 out of 10; it's now a 9 out of 10, or something ridiculous. It's like, oh, in its current state, it's so much better, and it's like, well, they added some more weapons, and now it's on PS5.
You got me thinking, man. You got me thinking. You just brought up something that I never considered. I don't know if it was you or Steel. I think it was you, but like crossovers, right? Like you said, a Star Wars crossover would have been really fucking cool, like in some type of way. I don't think Bethesda ever does crossovers like that. I mean, they usually just allow the IP to stand on its own name because it's Bethesda. But a game like Starfield, just to inject some new energy, could use something like a crossover. Like, it wouldn't hurt Starfield, I don't think. Like you don't have to like completely deflect from like the main storyline, but a nice little tie-in would be cool. You know what I mean? Like, I think that Star Wars makes sense. Star Trek would be really cool too. That's a little different. I mean, I know it's not as popular as Star Wars, but just something to kind of like get people talking a little bit more excited, because I agree with both you guys. I enjoyed the God of Starfield, and I wholeheartedly still believe to this day it got beat up for a lot of the wrong reasons, for a lot of just not miscommunication, but just people misrepresenting what the game actually was, and then just going off of those things, and then people having whole conversations about other things. But I do think there's still a lot meat on the bone though with the game. There's a lot of stuff that they can do, man.
I do push back on that on a little bit, because there are people who are dedicated modders for Bethesda. So, for example, and this could just be an example that used in a space vacuum, but there's a modder who did the mod for Skyrim for multiplayer, right? He added co-op in Skyrim. And he was going to do the same thing for Starfield. And he was going through the process and everything, and he actually ended up stopping because he said that the game was not fun enough for him to continue. Now, again, that's just one example, but if this is somebody who loves Bethesda games, who gets into the code, and this is something that he enjoys doing. And again, that is just one example. Again, I always add on to speak to what you're saying, PTK, as well, and how we kind of feel about Starfield overall. There's over 500 pages of mods on Nexus Mods for Starfield, right? There's a whole Starfield overhaul for Starfield as well. You can make it look like a complete Star Wars experience if you wanted to, start to finish, right? They changed missions, they changed everything. They even got mods in there to make things feel more alive and for the game to be what people probably wanted it to be day one. I think just because Bethesda has set a certain bar for themselves, right? There are people who do expect a certain amount of things. And I will say, like, at least from what I went back and played from Skyrim does feel a little bit more lived in than even Starfield does. And I get that Starfield is a space adventure game. Not everything is supposed to be instantaneous because you're going to different planets and everything else. But I think the number one thing that did hurt Starfield, and again, I think that's why people always go in and say, hey, I think Fallout New Vegas is the best Bethesda styled game, because it's the only other Bethesda game that I know of where their story actually loops back in on itself and your choices actually have a consequence in the world that you're playing in, or in the universe that you're playing in. And I think if they would have hammered more so focused on that, and I think that's what these next updates should be focusing on, that would inherently bring the experience back up for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But it's just seemingly there is that divide of people like myself who aren't the Bethesda fans, have not really been with them since from the very beginning, don't have all these expectations, who have enjoyed it. Like people like Pong who have been part of the experience, who, you know, will always speak to, you know, people don't really get what Bethesda's going for. But there's also the complete opposite side as well of people who have thrown themselves in this world, and they're like, you know, on a scale of 1 to 10 for a Bethesda game, this doesn't quite meet the bar that we were looking for, which why a lot of people were kind of disappointed with what they got out of Shattered Space, because that was their opportunity to refine it down and say, oh, it's, you know, it's more on one planet and you do all these different things, and things just didn't happen to pan out the way that kind of people expected. And maybe that's on Bethesda for setting such an expectation for themselves, or it could be just, hey, Starfield didn't necessarily end up being what it could have been, because they kind of went too wide. You know what I mean? And that could be very well the case. Because again, I do think Starfield has a very weak story. Point blank. Like if you're just focusing on the main story, it is very weak. It has no strengths, and it's only because the faction stuff. Again, you make so many dope choices throughout the game through the story content. If it would have looped back in on that main, oh man, it would have been such a complete experience. I think people would have changed their mind on it.
No, well, there's two story things that I've run into, and I think part of this broke one of my playthroughs. There's a way to join the Crimson Fleet, and there's the way to join the UC. Yeah. And I tried to join the Crimson Fleet the non-traditional way, which is possible, but it created a weird situation on Mars where now every time I land on Mars, I get attacked. Because if you give the finger to UC after you get caught stealing or whatever, you know, it's not really a spoiler, but like if you basically say, yeah, I'm not taking your deal, right, and then you're back on the streets kind of thing, and you join the Crimson Fleet, it definitely has a weird repercussion. And I probably did something wrong, because now, like I said, every time I go to Mars, the bounty hunters are after me, and I don't think that was part of it. I think it's because I wound up accidentally killing somebody in their line of sight, and they're at the front door of Mars when you get there. But it made the game a lot different after playing the UC storyline, you know, a certain way, and then the non worrying about Crimson Fleet UC storyline, like it plays a lot differently when you go to Crimson Fleet the non-traditional way. But like they need to tie those lines in a little bit more, and maybe have it where there's repercussions, because like if you're not part of the Crimson Fleet, they're always an enemy kind of thing. But when they're not an enemy and they're like, oh man, as long as I make the right money, everything's good, or they say like the same 5 or 6 lines, but make it where you can like recruit beyond the normal companions from them, and just be like, all right, we're gonna rob that gambling spot or that casino. That would be kind of cool, because then you'd have a definite dogfight between the Eclectic, I think they were called, and Crimson Fleet. But yeah, there's so many things that they should go back into and make it where maybe you can join those other factions that are kind of like side ones that aren't really as well known, but you come across every so often, or the Spacers, because I think they call the other ones like the random ragtag group Spacers, which is funny considering Spacers in Outer Worlds 2 and stuff. But heck, they could probably actually do a crossover in-house between and then that would be another, you know, Obsidian and Bethesda joint, you know, Outer Worlds 2 and Starfield kind of thing. But yeah, there's some definite story things that they should revisit, and, you know, maybe have a little deeper dive. Because like I said, going Crimson Fleet the non-traditional way was so much fun on my one playthrough. It's just like the only thing that was kind of missing is, like, instead of them attacking, they're like, oh yeah, you pay me the right money, I'm good to go. It's like, no, get on my ship. We're going to go rob that casino where they got people running through the gauntlet, and they probably got a lot of cash there, so we should be able to, you know, take that over pretty easy, and that would be a whole new thing too.
So what it sounds like from all three of us, and all 3 of us have played the game fairly extensively. Shout out to Chad as well too. that it just sounds like they just need to connect more, right? Just fill in the gaps where there were gaps before, because a lot of these things don't sound too crazy. A lot of it's just like you just said, still, right? Just have the story loop back in on itself. The connective tissues of the game that weren't there before,
That's
to kind of fill in again, because you're right there. So listen, I do enjoy Starfield, but you're right. It is a vast game. It is a very vast, and you feel it when you're playing it.
Oh yeah.
And when it doesn't feel like there's anything connecting, it can really feel like space, but space in not a good way, like space in not a fun way, right? Like it feels more like a space simulator than a more connected game. Certain areas, but I do agree with you guys. There's a lot there, and I do think that they've left themselves at least room to update this game and add a lot to it. It's still a great game either way. You know what I mean? A lot of it's what you're going into it expecting as well too. You know, some people thought it was just going to be Skyrim or Elder Scrolls in space, and it just wasn't that. And that immediately ruined some people's experience. Yeah, somewhat. Some people kind of allowed it to be what it was and grow on them, and some people ended up enjoying it. But there's so much more when you build a world as vast as they've built in the systems. Because I still think, man, that game still does some extremely cool things still. Like, there's still some cool shit that happens in that game. You're like, man, that is really cool. I still see screenshots. I still see gameplay. It's still one of the, like,
it's beautiful.
It's a beautiful game. It runs well. I mean, it looks good. The physics are, I mean, what other RPG are as involved, like, from a physics standpoint, as that game? Like, the amount of things you can do, it's amazing. It has a lot to offer, but like you said, just tying it all together and still throwing a brand new fresh coat of paint over it, maybe some new UI, some new in-game systems, some new, you know what I mean? Just some new connected things to make you feel like, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that, you saying end-game systems, that really poked something on, because that was, pause. Because that's definitely something I think would be dope. I mean, again, because I know the whole end game. Again, I don't want to get into spoilers of the game or whatever. But I know there is a end game, quote unquote, to it, right? But having something additional there, like, give you an example. One of the main turnoffs for me was learning that when I went through my my new playthrough, or when I went through my new playthrough, that I didn't get to keep any of my ships. It's like, well, if I'm still somewhat aware of some of what is going on, I don't get to keep blueprints at least, or have an idea, so I can just bring my ship forward or recreate it somehow. And that was a turnoff for me, because it was like, dog, I spent like 40, 50 hours creating ships, you know what I mean? And to have that all thrown away at the end of the game, it's like, so you're telling me I just wasted my time? Or it's like, okay, well, you want me to play the game differently now, but it's like, but I still want what I had. And just because you gave me this new thing, and it's cool or whatever, but it's not what I created myself. You know what I mean? Like, that just hit different for me. And then just going through that was a major turnoff for me in Starfield. And probably one of the reasons why I wouldn't end up going back. Now, if they brought that back in, I'd be like, hey, this might be something I might have to go back in and try. But I guess that'll be something else that I would probably add on to say, I want to bring that into. So.
Well, it's interesting to see, and I'm glad we started off on this, because once again, I hadn't talked about Starfield in a while, and it's just good to hear something about an update, something about the roadmap, because it's been a very, very long time. Obviously, they had the Oblivion remaster, which did very well, and I do agree, Fuzz, a little bit. Maybe they as huge as Bethesda is, and would I even dare say that they're stretched thin because they're so large? But they might be a little bit. They might be. Maybe the DLC wasn't as, maybe they had a very small team on the roadmap working on just kind of what's coming up, and then maybe they'll shift here now that they're done with that remaster, and they can move a few more people over there to that team. So the DLCs and the updates aren't coming as quick as I thought they would. Because the game is how old now? What, 2 years old now? Is it 2 years? At least 2.
Yeah.
It's about 2. So that's another thing too for me, is that I know maybe it's a Bethesda thing, and I know sometimes they're afforded the ability to do things. Some I know all devs aren't created equal. Some can do things that others can't, and they can get away with certain habits and not telling people things for long periods of time. But I don't think it really helped Starfield that they've waited this long to give kind of an update. Or even some say anything about the future. So it is kind of nice to get a little bit, and hopefully we get, So just quick question before we turn the page here. When do you guys think the next Starfield announcement is going to be? We talking 26 at maybe a dev direct. Maybe we get a standalone Starfield announcement, just a tweet. Maybe they do get their own little showcase. Are we getting anything Starfield this year, or are you guys looking at 26?
I'm thinking 26. Like I think this is as much as what we get for 25 with Tim talking about it, like some updates are coming. I mean, unless there's the PS5 announcement, obviously, but maybe at the 2-year anniversary, which didn't it come out September of 23 or something like that?
Yep.
It was sometime in September, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe at the 2-year anniversary,
September 6th.
6th, yeah. Oh no, was that early access? Or wasn't it the 12th? Was early, because early access was a week before everybody else got to play it, right? Was the early access the 6th? I thought it was like the 12th or something for everybody. Anyway, either or, doesn't matter. Same thing.
Yeah, but I think maybe at the 2-year anniversary they make an announcement. Oh, it's coming to PS5. Oh, by the way, here's some updates. Maybe an additional craft as opposed to the buggy right now. Maybe they have a few other things that they drop, and then maybe there's a PS5 drop at the beginning of next year type of deal with the full-on Starborn DLC and stuff like that. But I think we don't necessarily get any more of an update other than maybe a patch here and there or a quality of life type of thing. But whatever DLC they're working on will probably be at the drop of when it hits PS5. That's my best guess.
I agree. I don't think there's really, because I can't see it being at like the VGAs or anything like that. I say I can't, but it could be, but I just don't think it'll be, this year. I do agree with you, Fuzz, as well. I do think it'll be sometime, and it might just be its own little announcement. It might be, maybe they have their own little 15-minute direct situation, that they're going to do. And, they do their own little standalone situation, or it could just be a tweet and a little announcement like, hey, the next time you're going to hear from us will be at the showcase next year. Some type, you know what I mean? Like we'll be there at the showcase in 26 or something like that. What do you think? Still 26 as well, maybe?
I think we'll get an announcement possibly for Starfield coming to PlayStation at the Game Awards.
Oh, okay.
They'll probably tease it at that point and say, "Hey, coming to PlayStation spring, maybe even summer, around that time." And then we'll get another big update probably around that time as well. I mean, at this point, I want them to cook if that's what they're going to do.
Yeah.
Whatever they release next. I mean, again, I know reviews aren't everything. But it is something that people judge a lot of games by. And right now, Starfield, just on that aspect, isn't being looked at as the greatest, right? So having something that's really going to breathe more life into it, because really, it's like when you look at your Space Odyssey games, and again, the games are definitely different, but it's like, damn, man, No Man's Sky has pulled a lot of attention now. Yeah, I mean, Starfield is definitely cooking, but No Man's Sky.
I'm talking about No Man's Sky. Yeah.
Gotcha. But No Man's Sky has pulled so much attention now, especially with this big update. I mean, again, they said that they literally had to rework the engine to make all the customization that they've done possible and allow you to be able to customize while in space, while warping, while doing all these things. So it's like, wow.
Keep in mind, these aren't the same games. I just want
nowhere close.
I don't view, because people look at everything happening and then pumping out as much content for No Man's Sky and be like, well, why can't Bethesda? They're not the same game. They're not the same.
It's not the same. There's so much more. Again, you spoke to the physics of. There's so much more involved in the physics engine of things, and that especially on a hardware level that No Man's Sky wouldn't be able to do. And again, No Man's Sky doesn't necessarily. The No Man's Sky narrative thread is to get to the center of the universe. Starfield has so much more depth as far as that goes, if that's what you're looking for. But again, you're also talking about a game that came out in 2016 with No Man's Sky. So it's like I also put that in comparison. Again, you're talking about a game that's a decade old versus almost a decade old has plenty of updates, has constantly trying to be in good favor with its community, versus a game that's a couple years old that is also trying to work with its community. But I don't think thinking about Starfield being a decade-long game, knowing how Bethesda games go, is even anybody should be worried about. That this game is going to be supported until at least 2035, right? And it's going to be a completely different game by the time people experience it at that point.
Yeah,
So.
no, I agree. But especially you look at Fallout 76, perfect example. And I think, and it didn't even have Starfield got off to a way better start than Fallout 76. I think we can all agree Fallout 76 fell flat on its face right out the gate. It was, and it has recovered beautifully. Like you said, over time they've added to the game, and it's turned into something that people really, really enjoy. At this point, something that Bethesda can be really proud of. So I think it is time to turn a page on this. But great topic, man. I'm so happy. That made my heart kind of flicker a little bit talking about Starfield. It's been so long. So glad we got to get that in. Shout out to everybody in chat too. Appreciate everybody watching live. Once again, retweet the link. Let everybody know the Shot Podcast is we in here talking some good gaming. Got Steel in here. Got Fuzz in here, man. We having a good Sunday, man. Appreciate all you guys and hope you're having a great long weekend as well too. So man, let's turn the page a little bit. So off of one RPG, off of a Bethesda RPG to an Obsidian RPG, we're making that smooth transition still. That smooth transition. Ooh, yes. So I want to talk a little bit about Obsidian and Outer Worlds 2 and how excited I am for this game. And this is more of a me topic. I'm not gonna lie. Like when I thought about this, I really didn't care who didn't want to talk about it or hear about it, because I just really want to give Obsidian all the praise for everything that they've done this year. People don't really understand how consistently great that they have been, putting out 3 games in a 12-month span, and these games are coming out. These games have come out. They're critically praised. Both of them. None of them are broken. None of them needed any massive updates and were unplayable day one. Obviously, one is still a preview game. We understand Grounded 2 is still kind of a working in demo kind of situation, but it's still great out the box day one, no issues, and it's already, some people are saying it's already much better than the first game at this very early point. And then Avowed, one of the few UE5 games that come out in a great state, wasn't broken, wasn't unplayable. The game looked great, ran great, had a lot of great things going for it. I still think it's probably going to end up being one of the most underrated games this year, right over to our Outer Worlds 2. And let me tell you something, Still and Fuzz. I watched some Game Riot footage the other day, and it was only maybe 18, 19 minutes long. And boy, did it get me excited for Outer Worlds 2. I thought I was excited for this game. The more I hear about it, the more and more I get excited, because I really think this game is going to do everything that people thought Avowed was going to do. Is going to be what Outer Worlds 2 is, from the dialogue to the gameplay to the humor to the characters to the way it looks. That gunplay, they really built on top of what Avowed was able to do. Like, I'm an RPG noob, and this might be sacrilegious to say, but I think Avowed had some of the best gameplay, like tightest gameplay combat I've ever played in an RPG. From snappiness to like being able to switch weapons, and this seems like that to at another level. The gameplay, the time manipulation, everything you can do in this game. So I kind of want to gush over it a little bit and ask you guys, one, have you guys seen anything new from Outer Worlds 2? And then 2, like, what are your general expectations from the game? We're going to start with you on this one, Steel. I don't know how much you're looking into this game, but boy, man, it looks really good. And on top of the fact that everything I've heard about it, people are gushing over it. Everything I've heard, people are gushing over it. So go ahead, Steel.
Yeah, I'm hearing people feel good about it. But then there's also others who kind of feel meh about what they've played so far. At least from early, whatever the hour gameplay. I saw the Lords talk about it. Shout out to the Iron Lords. I saw Maddie talk about it. And their experiences. Again, I kind of default to people who have a little bit more experience with those types of RPGs than I do. I didn't play Outer Worlds 1. Outer Worlds 2 doesn't necessarily is interesting. I like the fact that they have first and third person, right? Third person is always going to pull me in a little bit deeper in those types of experiences potentially. But the main thing for me as well that I would throw in there is, and it's more so an additional reason probably why I'm just not interested. The companions don't interest me. The same thing with Avowed. I was completely disappointed with all the companions in Avowed. Almost to the point where, pretty much to the point it turned me off the game. I was completely uninterested. I didn't want to continue at a certain point. And again, I wasn't even shallow with it to the point where I was like overly critical about the dialogue and all this stuff. Yeah. And I do agree with you, PTK. I really like the combat aspects to it and everything as well. Although I did have my disconnects as far as because I play everything on the highest difficulty, right? There's going to be things that I see with AI and engagements that most people won't. And there was an experience that I had that kind of turned me off that dealt with the AI and whatnot. And that put a sour taste in my mouth. And then meeting my next blue furry companion, I was like, yeah, I don't know about this. And I can be honest and be saying I can be shallow in that way. Although I don't necessarily think that it's shallow. I do think that it is speaking to something that has been an ongoing industry issue as well, where people are trying to seemingly sometimes placate to one side or the other, or don't understand what bringing a cool factor to a game is. Like, again, I think Dante is one of the coolest dudes ever as far as action games go. And I'm not expecting everybody to be Dante. I'm a mecha fan. I'm just a fan of cool and good looking characters. And when you have games, and I get, you want characters that fit within their worlds as well. So I get all those aspects, but it's like when you see, for example, you go to Clockwork Revolution, right? You see all the characters that are involved there, and then I look at something like Outer Worlds 2, and you see the characters that are involved there, and who the people that you're going to be engaging with. It's like, why does one seemingly have cool, like, more interesting looking characters?
I don't know,
or
man.
People that you want to
that's
engage with
subjective,
versus
though. That's
it
and
is.
obviously, I asked you the question, so this is your opinion.
Yeah,
I just feel
100%.
like, I don't know, man. And like I said, I don't have the RPG background that some of you guys do. I didn't get into RPGs really until 2.5, 3 years ago, maybe. So I don't have that background or baseline of what these characters are supposed to be. You know what I mean? So maybe that's just me being a little bit naive, but I have heard similar complaints. Pong has similar complaints as well as far as companions. I've heard that from other people as well too. So I don't really know what makes a cool character anymore. That seems to vary depending on the game and depending on how much people are excited about the game as well too, because opinion shifts all the time. So I don't know what constitutes a cool character anymore, because on one hand, it can't be a girl. On the other hand, it can't be somebody.
It could be a girl.
Not you. I'm just saying. I'm just saying though, it's hard to figure out what exactly do people mean. Like, that character's not cool. I don't understand that. You know what I mean? Like, and once again, maybe it's just a subjective thing. It fluctuates quite often for me.
It's always going to be subjective, but I think more so when I say a cool character, somebody's like from the outside looking in, it's like, oh, I want to engage with that character. Hey, I meet this person and they are interesting to me just on a surface level. Hey, I want to find out, hey, what is going on with your aesthetic? Why do you look this way? Why do you carry yourself this way? Right. Because again, humans are very surface level people first. You're going to judge everything by looks first, and then you'll dive in deeper. So for an example, I can't remember the blue dude's name anymore from Avowed,
I remember,
but nonetheless, what was his name, PTK?
The one that looked like the lizard kind of Kai. That guy?
Kai. There you go. He was an interesting looking character. Like, that would be a good example of what I would mean by, like, oh, that's a cool looking character. Now, did he have enough depth to him, come to find out, at least for me? And did I want to find out more about his story? No, I really didn't care. But that's a me thing for sure. But I think that's what I mean more so on a surface level, where we have an area, right? And I'm not saying that every game needs to have characters that look good like Eve does from Stellar Blade, for an example. Or again, I use the example of Dante as a male representation of good looking characters, right? Or even if you go to Starfield, you use that as an example because that was the previous topic, right? I don't think, and I can't remember freaking the blonde hair chick's name now. I can't freaking remember most of their names now, unfortunately. But all the characters in Starfield aren't, I wouldn't say they're the best looking characters I've ever seen, but there is something unique enough about them where you want to learn what's going on, right? It's like, oh, okay. Hey, you're appealing enough to me here where it's like, what else is going on? Okay, now you have these other things going on behind the scenes as well. So that's more so what I mean on that. It's just like when you have companions, you want them to be somewhat interesting, at least on a surface level, to get people to engage. Like, hey, I want to bring like Vasco for an example. Yeah, that's a robot, but damn, the robot, just looking at him, has some personality to him. Like, oh, that's an interesting looking robot. I haven't necessarily seen something like that before. And then you engage with him and you take him out in the field. hold your back, he holds you down, he engages with you, has conversation, he'll hold stuff for you, it's just, that's more so what I mean as far as that goes. And again, that could be just a very shallow thing for me, but it's just, there is also, I just think there's a reality to it where it's just like, hey, I also draw a comparison to something like, I don't think Dragon's Dogma is probably going to be the best comparison, because those are more so the pawns and companions that you can have in that game are being created by other people, right?
Yeah.
So people have a lot more freedom of expression there. But even that, it was like, when I was going through Dragon's Dogma 2, when I was choosing a different pawn, every so often, it was like I was judging based off of, oh, how's that character look? Okay, yeah, I like what you did together. Like what you did there. You threw the character together, the outfit that you got on. Oh, they got this kind of weapon. That's exactly what I'm looking for. Come on, let me bring you through the adventure. And then you have your dialogues and stuff like that. So it's just, for me, as far as Outer Worlds 2 goes, that's something that is a detracting point for me, just on a surface level kind of thing. And again, when you're trying to pitch a game out to other people, right? I'm what I would consider part of the hardcore audience. And even for me, again, I'm not the biggest Western RPG dude. I'm one of the people that think Witcher 3 isn't all what people make it to be. Not saying that I can't acknowledge that what it's doing and everything else, but it's like, if you're trying to get other people interested, you do have to kind of branch out a little bit, or pull certain aspects and give a little bit of what I call a cool factor to the game, just to pull people's interest in.
God, it's such a slippery slope though, man, because that's different for everybody. You know what I mean? Like, certain games pull off things that other games just can't. You know what I mean? I don't. It's hard to. I don't know, man.
Because Mass Effect was it would be another good example too. Yeah. Mass Effect, you look at Garrus, you look at Yara, you look at all the characters that are in that game. Like, I wouldn't say that all of them are the most appealing characters, but all of them have something extremely unique about them that makes you want to learn about. Hey, Garrus is he's not a handsome dude. He's some blue alien dude. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, when we get to a game like Outer Worlds,
what's in the sauce that pulls them, right? You know what I mean?
It's all about what the devs want to bring to the table. Again, if that's the aesthetic for Outer Worlds, then that would just explain why I'm not personally interested in Outer Worlds like that. Even with it being in Game Pass, it wouldn't be a game that I would try. You know what I'm saying? Like, people always run with that narrative. Oh, you play all these Game Pass dudes, they play Game Pass games. And it's like, that's not necessarily the case, because people still, you always have your own personal interest, which is why I always lead with know who you are as a gamer and know what you're looking for. But it's just, when we're talking about when we're talking about it, and if you're asking like, yo, how you feeling, what you're seeing, it's like, this is what I'm seeing. This is potentially why I wouldn't end up trying the game. They are doing some creative things. I think the game looks good. For all the people that were fans of the first game, I can see Outer Worlds 2 being exactly what you wanted and more. But it's just like, some of these other aspects I think you could have done a little bit better with, because it's like, even when you use Concord as an example, it's like, dog, you created this game, you didn't see that these characters didn't have a cool factor to them. Like, I mean, PTK, like, subjectively, that's an example of what I mean. Like, and maybe you could say, oh, that's subjective in that way as well, but by large, that game was judged by their character design. Not necessarily the gameplay just by itself, because people will say, oh, well, gameplay sells games. No, it didn't, because obviously it didn't do enough for people to have enough interest to want to dive in deeper into those games. And when you're creating games, you want as much attention as you can get, right? So,
Concord is a bit of a unique situation, because one, it was a live service game. PlayStation fans didn't want a live service game to begin with,
but that's removing all that though. I'm not even talking about all of that though.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Before you can even get to the creative part, they didn't even want the game being made, that genre, to begin with. Like, they were completely opposed to those kinds of games to begin with. We saw 8 of them and they didn't like any of them. They're like, what the hell? Go back to the single player stuff. That's what we need you to do, PlayStation. Not saying that you're wrong still, because you're not wrong. No, I'm just saying it was already a steep climb anyway, like, to begin with. As soon as they said live service, they're like, nah, we're good. We're straight. Like, nah, we're straight. So, you're right.
Also something that we think in a bubble. I do think that's the opinion of the bubble. that people that didn't want the live service, because nobody knows what they want until they actually get it.
True.
And when people got it in hand,
it did reflect. I mean, it didn't do very well. I mean, on a large scale basis as well too. Now, maybe the biggest piece of that pie was the visuals, and people just didn't like the visuals so much to the point where everybody's like, you know what, collectively, yeah, we're not going to play the game. But I can't say that either, because I don't have that data either. It's hard to say.
The weirdest thing about Concord, I think a lot more people's interests were piqued from that CGI trailer. Like when they thought it was Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yep.
They were more invested because at least some of the characters that they showed for that part were more interesting than some of the other ones. Like for me, it seemed like the opposing team was just like bots. Like they kind of threw those together. They didn't put as much thought in the design of the outfits or the look of the characters to some extent. And I get what Steele is saying. Like for me, Mass Effects, the biggest thing with that is the character depth. There's even 100%. If they're not the most appealing to look at type of thing, you want to find out their story. They got a battle scar under their eye, or they hate a certain other alien race that you're supposed to work with, and you're trying to figure out why these two don't get along if they've never met, kind of thing. And the history between their alien races versus each other type of thing. Yeah. So with something like Mass Effect, there's so much depth. Once you get invested in it, it's like you get thrown this character, but you're not necessarily forced to like the character, but you're at least forced to hear their story. And that's where I think they put the hooks in something like Mass Effect.
Isn't that more of your idea and your presentation though? Because that's first impression. That's like, oh, we're hooked day one. Like that's you don't know until you actually show what you're doing if that's going to be the reaction. Nobody was addicted to nobody knew they were going to be that wrapped up in Mass Effect until they actually saw it, right? So it's hard to say, but my thing is always, are we just telling devs that they don't know what they're doing then? Like, you guys aren't good at your job? Like, if that's the case, then we're basically telling them this idea sucks. Go back to the drawing board, even though that was their vision for the game. Now, I understand that just because it's their vision doesn't mean we got to buy the shit. Because that's two different things. We are consumers at the end of the day. I wouldn't go pay for a car that I didn't want. I wouldn't go pay for some food that I didn't want. So I understand. I really do. I don't want chat chewing me up about this because I'm not trying to play devil's advocate. I'm just trying to look at it from a different perspective as well. So that's all I'm saying, because like creatively, it's hard to say like until you put it out there for everybody. Like those hooks don't exist until they do. And how do you do that, right? Like, you don't know. They didn't know when they put together that Mass Effect trailer that people were going to get instantly sucked into the world and want to know everything about every character. So when it doesn't hit, what do you do? Like, what do you do?
What I will say, because I do want to tie it back in, just in case anybody who ends up listening in gets lost, or like, why are y'all bringing up these other? The reason that I ended up bringing up these other games to tie back into Outer Worlds 2, because I was talking about the companions and the look of the characters and stuff like that as something that's what would pull me in and pull my interest in. Because even as somebody from the outside, I didn't play Mass Effect for the first time until Legendary Edition dropped, which was last year or the year prior, right? That was the first time I ever played Mass Effect, right? But I had always seen these characters from the outside looking in, and it was like, oh, these characters look interesting. Like, I want to, like Rex, like, again, Liara, like all these different characters. They didn't just look like, oh, off the wall people. Look like characters that had some purpose designed behind them, where I never got that feeling from Outer Worlds 1, and I definitely don't have that feeling out of Outer Worlds 2. So that's more so just for my personal aspect, for things that I look for, that things that pull my interest, for a game that is coming out and is going to ask for some attention, and ideally they want to cast a net to a wider audience. It's not pulling me. Right. But and that's okay. It doesn't have to be for me, which is why I mentioned, it's probably for the, if it's meant for the people who enjoyed Outer Worlds 1, which I'm 100% behind. If that's what it's for. Great, man. But it's just, if you want other people to be interested, there is just something in the sauce when it comes to other creative studios. And I do believe that we have a lot of devs out here who do not understand what gamers really want or what they're looking for, or just don't stand behind their creative vision enough. Right. Or they just don't stand behind their creative vision enough to flush it out and really say, nah, this is how we feel, or be able to make adjustments on the fly. So just for me, tying it back into Outer Worlds 2, again, I can be very surface level about a lot of these things. Again, I'm not the biggest Western RPG dude in the world either. And again, since I didn't have that interest in Outer Worlds 1, I'm not trying to just completely crap on the game. It's just, these are some of the things that I'm seeing. I'm digging the aesthetic, space, all the stuff, the environments. The game looks good, but for me, it's like, okay, it's like an onion. Just like Shrek, you use back in the day. It's got layers. Once you start peeling the layers back, and you start evaluating all the other games that you might have in your library, that's something that I'm always considering. Hey, what other games do I have access to, and how do I compare that to what may be coming out?
We're Grazers. We play them all any goddamn way. So even though we are judging it, we end up juggling them anyway. So it don't really matter. No, I feel you though still. But no, I want to make sure we're clear here. Not bashing Steel's choices here, because obviously I did ask the question. So in the game is not the game necessarily isn't for everybody, and that's fine. But I do want to kind of get back on that train a little bit too with Outer Worlds 2, because like I said, a lot of the things I saw look great. I enjoy everything I saw. I actually watched every bit of IGN gameplay that I could find. They did break down like specific aspects of gameplay. I was really excited about what the plans that they have for the game, and the deep RPG mechanics that are in there. As far as I know, you guys mentioned, you and Pong mentioned your choices, actually making differences in the game, and they seem to be leaning into that very heavily. The 10-minute gameplay I saw kind of did reinforce that narrative. It was a very small, short level, but it did showcase that, hey, these decisions that you make do have repercussions later on in the game. So I want to throw this over to you, Fuzz, to get your quick opinion. One, on top of the fact that I just really want to give Obsidian some goddamn praise a little bit too. I will always give them praise until they prove me otherwise, because they continue to do it again, man. This 3 games in 12 months is nothing to sneeze at in 2025. 3 successful launches in 1 year in 2025 there's very few developers doing that on the scale that they're doing. And these weren't like small games. These aren't like, oh, well, look at the little Grounded's not an indie game anymore. Sorry, people. There's over 30 million players. It's not an indie. It doesn't qualify as an indie anymore. Avowed was a decent sized game, and Outer Worlds 2, I believe, is much bigger than Avowed. Go ahead, Fuzz.
Well, I think one of the things, like for me, that I'm excited about it is some of the new like buffs and debuffs that you can get on your character. So cool. Like staring into the sunlight and stuff like that. Like we talked about that before, where it's like, hey, you get more health or better healing from staring in the sun, but then you get that lens flare. Lens flare, which may screw up your targeting and stuff like that. But just real quick on their what do you call it, companions and stuff. The thing that was the most appealing about their companions, at least for me in the first game, was the quips between each other, which that's where it reminds me a little bit of Mass Effect, although that doesn't necessarily get showcased as much. But like the variety of companions that you have, taking certain ones on the mission with you, because you can usually take 2, or you could just go solo if you want. But when you take 2, some of their interactions is what makes it really interesting, because some of them don't get along and some of them do get along, but in a way that's kind of weird. So that's where the companion part shines for me. They may not be the most aesthetically pleasing to the eye type of deal, but there are some cool combos. Like if you're going for like a stealth approach on things, you got to take certain characters. If you take the one that's noisy and clumsy, he's going to get you busted every time, kind of thing. But he might be good for picking pockets or something along those lines. So you can change up things on the fly to some extent, depending on the companions you take. And that will affect some of the storyline things that you come across, because sometimes you have to search. And I've watched some of the gameplay things, and it's very similar to how 1 was, where you'll have to search for things that you may not have the level or skill level unlocked just yet. Like you might be a level 5 for engineering, but it requires a level 7 engineer, and you don't have a level 7 engineer in your companion group. So you have to find the manual to kind of learn it. And it's like, hey, that's where the pickpocket comes in, or the guy that normally, steals stuff comes in handy, because he'll probably figure out where the book would be, where the engineer might have left it, kind of thing. But overall, that game for me, I think, like I said, the exciting thing is it's going to be a bigger, better version of the first game, and I'm hoping they still have a way where you can do the quick ending, much like a what do you call it? Uh, this oh god, now this is where old age comes in. Cry, what is it? Not Cry. What's the Ubisoft game that they're already
Prey?
on like level 6? Or like a sixth one with Esposito was the
Far Cry.
Yeah, Far Cry. Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay,
yeah, like for the most part, the way they now I've lost my complete train of thought. This is why you should not get old, kids. No, seriously. So with the way that they have a bigger and better version of the game and everything, I hope they allow you to still have the quick ending like a Far Cry. Because the first one you could either end it in like 5 minutes by I'm gonna say spoilers, but it's like if you haven't played it at this point, just know that you can end it in 5 minutes by turning in somebody from get go. It's like, hey, do you have any information on this guy? And you can be like, yep, and then or you could run the ship into the sun or something like that. There's like a variety of oddball things you can do to adjust how your story playthrough goes. Like it's meant to be a 20 to 40 hour game, but you can, like I said, end it in 5 minutes or in 15 minutes with certain decisions you make. It may not get you the good, warm and fuzzy feeling ending type of thing, but I hope they have a bit of that in 2 as well. Because that's always fun to, even if it's just for the achievement, just do that as like a separate save from your main playthrough kind of thing. But yeah, I'm excited for the game. I'm hooked on sci-fi stuff. I'm leaning more towards sci-fi horror. Had a ton of fun with like Dead Space and Prey. Those two kind of got me hooked for or looking forward to games like Routine and Chronos and stuff like that. But for something that's not necessarily Starfield, but like in a similar genre with companions and story quests, and I guess that's the biggest thing. The story quests for Starfield as well as for Outer Worlds 2 didn't really feel like fetch quests. I mean, some of it is fetch questy, like, hey, I need a better propulsion system for this spaceship. Yeah, you could go through like 9 different steps to find it, or you could tell them go screw yourself. But the fact that you could tell them go screw yourself is the part that I like, where you have those options to kind of either help or not help, or get the new propulsion system and then not give it to them and use it for something else kind of thing. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I want to see how these buffs and debuffs tie in even more, because there's just certain things that were funny about like being shell shocked in the first one, because not everybody's perfect at throwing grenades, and when you have one bounce back and hit you, and then it's like, hey, you could now withstand more gunfire and things like that, but explosions will rattle you or have it where the screen shakes so much that it becomes hard to aim, like stuff like that they had in the first one, and the type of things that they've progressed with as far as those types of features and things. I'm curious to see how this all plays out, but yeah, definitely give Starfield, give Outer Worlds 2 a try, even if it's just to send the companions out to their untimely death kind of thing. Because that's another thing. This game will allow you to play it at a level where they can have permadeath, which sucks because sometimes they wind up getting electrocuted because they're like, oh, I got a great idea. How about I, bring down this defensive wall by just putting a fork in the outlet kind of thing, and you're like, you don't even give them time to like say, hey, that's not a good idea, and they're on the ground shaking, and you can't save them at that point. But yeah, it's going to be, at least for me, I'm looking forward to just playing around, and that's one where I do encourage having multiple saves. You don't have to necessarily save scum the game, but go through a playthrough as the evil or the a-hole, because that's always fun in this type of game. And then if you want, go through as the hero, or have a play through as the hero, and then one where it's like you do the opposite of what you think is the right answer, and sometimes it actually gives you even better rewards to some extent, or you accidentally wind up helping the people that you didn't think you were helping, because now the decision you made to shut the power off to their building or their town or whatever now allows them to go back to the bigger city where they would be better off anyway, kind of thing. So a little bit of a somewhat spoiler from the first one, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. I'm so excited about this game, though. You know what I mean? Notwithstanding, everybody has different opinions, but I'm just super proud of Obsidian and the job that they've been able to do in putting these games out. I have no doubt that this game will come out in great shape. I don't think it'll be a game that's going to need some massive day one update. I think it'll come out running and looking good. Like I said, I watched as much gameplay on it as I can find. I believe so far they've only given people like a quick, like little 15-minute kind of demo level. Like a little starter level to get into, and everything I've seen so far look great. And like you said, there's a lot of little things about this game, and I think people are going to find out there's much more depth to this game than meets the eye. And I know Steele was saying, just on kind of a surface level for him, some things have kind of soured for him, but I think there's going to be a lot of people that start that way, but once they actually give it a chance, find there's a lot more there, just based on what I'm seeing. You know what I mean? I can already see that it's way more depth already than something like a Avowed, and I really enjoyed Avowed as a RPG noob, I would say myself. You know what I mean? So but yeah, so like I said, each his own. But yeah, I just wanted to get our bars off about Obsidian, and shout out to them. Like I said, man, they're fucking phenomenal developer. I think they're one of the best developers, period.
For sure.
One of the for sure the best ones at Xbox. I mean, I wish every Xbox had the output as Obsidian. I wish every dev had the output that they do. People talk about it, Insomniac, and people compare them to like Xbox's Insomniac still. I think we made that comparison, didn't we, Fuzz? Didn't we kind of make that comparison that they would kind of be?
Yeah, because their output has been like top notch as far as they're able to produce games within it seems like a year's time. Granted, these things were probably started 4 and 5 years ago. And then we get to find out about them like a year or so after, or a year or so before their release type of thing. So it seems like they're always cooking something in the background. And I would say from not an optimization, but like from an efficiency standpoint, they seem to have their pipeline, wrapped down tight as far as they have this game coming out, Outer Worlds 2 coming out this year. We know they're probably working on something Fallout related. That's kind of the rumor with the one guy coming back from New Vegas. And it's not going to be New Vegas 2, but whatever it might be, they already got that cooking, and they'll probably have another title coming. I'm hoping they have Stormland somewhere in their pipeline. I know a lot of people may not remember or have heard of Stormland. That was supposed to be an Xbox One launch title that they were working on originally, but it was a lot bigger scope than what they could handle for a launch title for Xbox back then, before they were even acquired. It was meant to be like a high fantasy, but nothing like Avowed, but high fantasy where you would have like 100 players in the same persistent world, and you would have big world events. So think of how Destiny would have like their, public events, but you're 100 players against the, let's say the dragon, and it would give you like updates of what each person did to contribute to killing that dragon, or how they may have died in the honor of their clan or whatever type of thing. So it was a lot more ambitious than what they could have probably handled at the beginning of the Xbox One launch, but they still have the build and some of the notes in the background. So anytime they're looking to dive back into that, and probably now that they are part of, or first party for Xbox, they'll probably dive back into that at some point. But yeah, they're definitely a top tier studio for productivity. Love their output as far as the types of games. They may not be like your CD Projekt Red or your Rockstar, but they're in a league of their own. They're definitely punching above their weight class, I would say, for the size studio in comparison to something from like Ubisoft or EA or any of the other big publishers within.
And we got to give and still we got to give them proper credit for this. I told you, we talk about UE5 a lot, and a lot of devs that are much bigger than the city and can't seem to get that thing to work. Can't seem to get that engine to work, and Obsidian seem to have figured it out, at least from their perspective, because Avowed came out in great shape. It's probably the best or most optimized UE5 game to come out in a while. I mean, I can't think of one that's come out in the way that game came out, completely unbroken. Hell, even it got 40 frames on the S. They had a 40 frames option for Avowed on the S. for UE5, lo and behold. So I don't know what they got. They got Ganondorf in there. I don't know who they got, the Ganondorf, but a Gandalf or somebody in there cooking up, because they're very good with UE5, which is very unexpected.
Nah, 100%. I mean, again, we'll see more of that as we go on forward. Again, whether the case with UE5 is optimization, which I do think. Come to find out, I mean, just as these games are coming out, that does seem to be more of the issue than anything, right? I know it's Tim Sweeney. We don't have to take his word for it. Yeah. It is his engine, right? Yeah. And I don't think we should just take all of his words at face value, because he's going to defend his product. But at the end of the day, it is seeming to be that case that we just have, you have an engine that if you don't respect it, especially on an optimization level, and that's what people have said, you get to the end of the development or whatever, you're getting ready to release, then you start running into issues with trying to scale it for certain types of hardware, right? And that is something that we're definitely going to have to continue to fight against. I don't think that, again, to your point, I do think Obsidian is obviously able to understand, has some form of understanding, and I think the coalition probably has helped them with a lot of that. We know that they have, been thrown around the Microsoft offices to kind of help people out with certain things, and there is more and more people adapting Unreal as well. But I don't think we'll see true what the potential really is of Unreal until we see it from the coalition, because they are the only team outside of Fortnite, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say Fortnite's probably
from Epic,
yeah,
right. But even that's it's a different aesthetic as well, so that's why people always throw it under a different scope,
because it's more cartoony, and it's not.
If you even on PC,
that game was impressive,
even on PC with decent hardware, if you got good hardware, you start throwing ray tracing, lumen, start nanite, really all that good stuff in the Fortnite. You'll have Fortnite running at 40 FPS, and you can't do that playing, multiplayer in Fortnite, right? So it's like there is the potential there, but I don't think we'll really see what the true potential is until we get it with gear, the next Gears. So
yeah, good point. And that's on to our next topic, man. So shout out to, like I said, to Obsidian, man. Hope you guys let me know in the comment section. Let us know down in the chat here if you guys are looking forward to Outer Worlds 2. Let us know, maybe some different aspects you guys are looking forward to as well. But we are turning the page on this and getting into something that's a little bit spicy still. You might want to Yeah. Might want to go ahead and put the baby oil to the side. You know what I mean? Get yourself together.
Hey, yo.
I know, right? Out of everything, I had to bring up the baby oil. But anyway, moving on. We talking a little bit about Helldivers 2, man. It's very, very interesting. And we are here because this is not a place where I thought we would be still in fuzz, right? Talking about a PlayStation exclusive, having massive success on Xbox. And I want to get into that a little bit. And first and foremost, shout out to Arrowhead Studios for doing the damn thing. And I tell people all of the time, you were just talking about first impressions, right? Steel, you said how important those are from a developer. This is how you do a first impression. Now, technical issues withstanding, when you come over to somebody's house, you have a housewarming gift, and they brought a beautiful housewarming gift in the form of an ODST crossover. They say, what, Xbox community, I understand you guys aren't familiar with our game, but you are familiar with Halo. And we're going to do a nice crossover with Halo to kind of ease this transition, get you guys excited for the game, something that's real familiar, right? So I thought that first and foremost was really cool. They had the mindset to reach out to Xbox and say, hey, we know that you got that IP sitting over there. Nobody's doing anything with ODST. Can we borrow that? Because we're finna show up at your door. Can we coming through? Can we borrow that for a little bit? So I kind of want to get your opinion on just the overall release of Helldivers 2. I always thought it would be massive on Xbox and would do very well because it feels like an Xbox game. Just truth. That's the honest truth. It's the most PlayStation Xbox game I've seen in a very long time. It fits the ecosystem perfectly. So I know people were detracting, saying that, we don't know about this game. It might not do well on Xbox. So lo and behold, this is where we are still. So where you at on just the release, the success? Seemingly they've had I think they broke their record as far as concurrent players from what I saw recently as well too. But what do you think about it? Are we seeing more of this in the future?
I would imagine though, especially for these multiplayer games, I just don't see why you wouldn't lean more into it, right? I mean, again, we're moving into a future to where as many people as you can get in any way possible, as long as it pays respect to the IPs being used. I think it's super ideal, right? I mean, I would like to see potential down the line, or I would have liked to see, I would say more so, Halo Infinite do something with StarCraft, right? I mean, you have their own version of like their Space Marines or whatever the case might be. You know, I would have liked someone to see those cosmetics and stuff and like that played in there, or maybe even in Halo Infinite you could get something like a something from Killzone or something, some armor or whatever, just to kind of pay homage to what they thought was going to be the Halo killer. You know, that would be hilarious, right? Now, do I think Sony would do that? Nah, that would be pretty. I think that would be disrespectful at that point, but I think as long as you do the IPs that you're trying to bring in justice, especially with like Helldivers, it's just so, adding ODST to Helldivers was so, it was like a day one call, just because of, like you mentioned, it is so Xbox coded. And I've seen people have this conversation. Well, what does Xbox coded mean? Xbox doesn't have an identity anymore. How can you say that? Well, Xbox was known as the multiplayer box. I still consider them that, as much as maybe they aren't that for you now, since everybody kind of offers you multiplayer now and everything's kind of become a free to play thing. You kind of play whatever, but that has been Xbox's lineage. And what they've done with like horde modes and stuff like that, again, Gears made all that stuff extremely popular over time. That's what people mean, right? There's just things that existed in certain ecosystems that didn't exist in other places. And I'm not saying like Helldivers didn't exist before. Of course it did. Or we didn't have horde style game modes before. I mean, we had something of that ilk. But with stuff like Helldivers, man, I definitely want to see more IP that can implement something like that. Again, you're seeing it kind of with like Sonic Cross Worlds, where they're bringing Pac-Man and all these different IPs into it as well, right? And I always think that's dope, because again, it's an option. Maybe you don't add it in day one, but it is something that, again, when you're doing crossovers like this, where you say, you know what, why not? Why not bring ODST? Why not bring these armors?
Like you said, that's a easy. I mean, they're basically shock troopers anyway. Basically, you know what I mean? It's a easy. You didn't even, Ray Charles could have saw that coming. Like, oh yeah, that's an easy choice. Like, we don't even need to think about this.
But people have already, and I think they even solidified in their own storyline. They even made a way for ODSTs to exist in this world and story reasons and everything. So it's like, oh, they did it in a creative way. I think that's super dope how it was done. So I mean, as long as we continue to pay homage to that stuff like that, I think it's really dope. And again, what other better way to get Xbox players interested by saying, hey,
that's what I'm saying.
You jump in, guess what? You can grind for this ODST battle pack or whatever the case, and end up looking a certain way. And it gives gives older players, maybe if you were a Halo fan or whatever, a reason to jump back in and be like, I like Halo. I like that ODST game from the back of the day. I like Helldivers. So why not unlock those cosmetics and run with some folks to get that done? So I do think we need to see a little bit more of that, especially if we're going to continue to have these crossovers.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think it's so appropriate in this particular situation, like you said, right? For a game like that to do a crossover like that. And it's very, very cool at Arrowhead. By the way, I believe Arrowhead's independent. I know they're with Sony, but they still function independent, right? They still make the games that they want to make. Their next game will be independent. So that's another question. And I'll get to that. I'm gonna let Fuzz get his bars off about Helldivers too, because I do want to ask you guys about their next game possibly being maybe fully multiplat, not being just straight to PlayStation first and maybe going elsewhere later on. But I want to get your opinion on this, Fuzz, because it's something that you asked maybe some of us 5-6 years ago. This would never ever happen. Some people would never see this reality in a million years. You could have gave them the Doctor Strange ability, and they never would have saw this as a possibility. You know what I mean? So like to see this in real time, and not only that, but it be successful. Mind you, they broke their own record as far as concurrent players. So this whole idea that it wasn't going to be that successful for various different reasons. Oh, Xbox guys don't buy games. Oh, they're not going to really pay for this. ODST is an old, you know what I mean? Nobody really cares about that. And to see it actually be as successful as it does, that's that I give, and we rarely do this, but that's kudos to PlayStation, Arrowhead, and Xbox for seeing the potential of this game and saying, you know what, fuck it, it just makes sense. Let's do it. You know what I mean? So, just where you at on this?
Well, I've said a while ago that this one made most sense. Like when there was rumors of it potentially coming to Xbox, I'm like, it feels like an Xbox game. So I like what Steele was saying as far as an Xbox coded game. This being a co-op, multiplayer co-op type of game, more of a PvE type of deal. It just felt like this would, work well within this ecosystem, and sure enough, it did. And that's before you even do the ODST aspect to it. Like this would have probably been successful, maybe not as successful, but I think this still would have been successful without that collaboration. But with that collaboration, I think it adds a whole other sense of welcoming to the Xbox players. And in a time frame where a lot of games seem to either want to skip or prioritize PlayStation first. I mean, yes, this is a partnered studio with PlayStation. It is a second party deal. I guess PlayStation owns the IP, but they don't own Arrowhead type of thing. It makes sense that this went to PlayStation first because that's normally how it should work, as opposed to it being like a third party.
And the first one was on PlayStation as well, wasn't it? Or was it just PC? No, it's
the original Helldivers. I think it was on PC and PlayStation as well. But yeah, like this game coming to Xbox, I think having the collaboration, which I would love to see more collaborations on, stuff like this, where it seems like it makes sense or it's a fit for the style of game. Although it's hard to think of another crossover that they could probably do type of thing. I mean, until Halo comes over to PlayStation, maybe a what do you call them? What's the one that was supposed to be the Halo killer that was over?
Killzone.
Killzone. So maybe a Killzone crossover.
They did Killzone already, dude. They did Killzone first.
Yeah.
Well,
for Helldivers.
Yeah.
Helldivers.
Yeah. Helldivers. Yeah.
Okay, my bad.
But I'm saying like when Halo comes over to
got you. My bad.
Do a Killzone collab with that. Like that to me would be like something to consider. Like I don't really see them doing a GT7 or even a Drive Club collab with Forza Horizon being on PlayStation, but things along these lines tend to get the community excited, because when you're showing either skins or other things that are history or lore to that platform, it's like a I wouldn't say a love letter, but it's like a welcoming and a nod to the fans that I know it's a business and this is to attract as many eyes to that particular game, but they didn't have to do that. Like I said, this game I think would have still been successful on Xbox even without the collab, but the collab just took it to another level. And it other than losing ground, which maybe the developers didn't really prepare for the influx of players, but other than losing some ground during the whole battle, which I think they should kind of reverse to some extent, considering we had reinforcements. I think everything has gone off smashingly between, this release on Xbox, the ODST tie-in as far as for the skins and stuff, which I'm not saying everybody should do microtransactions or buy season pass type things or whatever, but like I was never I didn't have a problem with the way their pricing structure was for like the season passes or the war bonds or whatever. It felt like it wasn't too predatory compared to other places where it's like, $20 for a skin, like $5 I think used to get you, or maybe it was $10 that would get you like 3 different skins and capes and helmets and things like that. So the pricing for the stuff has always been reasonable. The amount that you get from progress in the game to unlock some things as well has been reasonable. It does have a difficulty curve that might be a little bit steeper than some people want to deal with if they're trying to play solo until you get to the upper levels with the drone. But all in all, this is meant to be a co-op game. Have a ton of fun. Try not to kill your or team kill or anything like that. But
it's so fun.
It happens.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, it's insane.
Like I remember
so many clips.
Yeah, last time I was playing with Steel, Mav, and I think Jasper or maybe it was Pong that was in the group with us, and I wound up killing Steel by accident because I was under the big bug, and then I called a strike down, and I was moving away, and I think Steel was coming over to him, and I don't know if he knew that the strike was coming down.
I
He was trying to get the underside, and I was like, no, back away, and it was like, oh damn. But yeah,
it was so funny.
This game is a ton of fun. Like, if you haven't picked it up already, definitely recommend picking it up. I have it on PC. I'm on the fence on double dipping. Like, if I can do crossplay from PC, I'll probably just do that. But like right now, with me playing a lot of Diablo and Division 2, it's like I don't need another time sync game because I already got 3 that I'm kind of stuck on right now for the moment. But my time with this game was a ton of fun, and hey, considering how successful this game is being on Xbox, I'm not saying the floodgates or the whole slate's coming, but people are looking over in those meetings, and they're like, "Hey, we could
if
make
it makes
some
dollars,
more
it
money."
makes sense, right? I mean,
Exactly.
come on now,
So,
like
whether it's Spider-Man or Days Gone or whatever the case may be, hey, there's money to be made. Xbox players do buy games. And we have a ton of fun when it's, a co-op or a multiplayer type game. Yeah. I don't know if they ever want to, create a PvP battle. Like, hey, you can join one of the alien factions. Like that could be something for down the road kind of thing, if they even want to go that route. But like, as it stands right now, the game is a ton of fun. I'm glad it's doing well on Xbox. It fits the platform. It makes sense. And hopefully this opens some eyes at Sony Corp. We'll see.
Now, it won't be every game because this is a very unique situation as well, too. We have to understand that, too, right? So, like we take that RTS view, right? Still got to pull back because this is a very unique situation. This game fits perfectly with where Xbox is at, where PlayStation is at, where Arrowhead is at, where Helldivers 2 is at. So it is a bit of a culmination of a lot of different variables that just happen to come together, and just the type of game it is just works well in the Xbox ecosystem. But like you guys said, it is a example that can be used for future possibilities, right? You can look at other games and say, you know what, that might not be such a bad idea. And let's just talk about the larger trend, right? The larger trend is we're seeing developers being more open to putting their games other places. And it's not just Xbox who's looking at these things. It is, well, we don't count Nintendo, obviously. Nintendo is still the Apple of video games. They do what they want to do when they want to do it, which is crazy. I don't want to get in, and then we'll be here another hour. But looking at PlayStation for sure. PlayStation's clearly looking at it. Hell, even looking at Xbox, like, you know what? Because listen, not only did this make money for Arrowhead, this also made money for PlayStation. They own the IP.
Yep.
So they get a cut of that as well too. So I'm sure that, because listen, the game was doing well, but it wasn't doing this well as it is this weekend. Like, it wasn't doing this well. The game was in a good space. You know what I mean? But it wasn't doing that. It didn't get it wasn't going to have this type of injection of players until maybe like the next big massive update. And even then, it probably wouldn't be as big as this. So you get this plus the next big massive update. That just, I mean, come on now. It looks so obvious. So I got an opinion too, because like I said before, we move on or wrap this up, I want to ask you and Still too about their next game, because you got to look at the future on this. If this makes sense now and they're looking at it like, you know what, like we can probably just do this again. Like whatever we're doing next might be just full multiplat. What do you guys think about the idea ahead saying, they don't really have anything getting in the way. They can make the game that they want. They're independent creatively. I don't know how much input PlayStation could have on the game. I don't know what the contract looks like, how it's structured, but we damn sure know that they have the final say of where they can put the game. So where you guys at, Still? What do you guys think, Still, for us, their next game?
I think their next game, I don't know. It would be easier just to say that their next game is probably going to be a Helldivers 3. I think at this point, I'm also of the aspect where there's certain games, especially when they are more live servicey, where we just don't need the next iteration of it so quick. Maybe you can continue to develop out Helldivers 2. So it's hard to say what their next game could be, right? Because they've already done something different, right? They took Helldivers 1.
Maybe I should have said next instance of making a game. Like, what do you know what I mean? The idea that this game's been so
overall
their
idea
next
of it.
The overall idea, like you know what I mean? The idea of, okay, do we just keep this? Are we just going multiplat day one just because we've already kind of explored that now?
All right. So as far as that goes, I think that just in thought is extremely interesting, mainly because I think it says a lot. One, I think that Arrowhead possibly wanted Helldivers 2 to be multi-plat much sooner. Not just PlayStation and PC, but they probably wanted it on Xbox much sooner than it ended up coming. And maybe that was probably caused some inside turmoil or whatever the case may be. There was some up and down with Helldivers through after release that they ended up having. There was also some community blowback. Also, there was the blowback from it not being made available in certain countries and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And that might have put a sour taste in their mouth. I do think it's extremely interesting as well that, like, when you sit back and think about it, right? For Arrowhead to come out after seeing the success that Helldivers 2 has had, because I wouldn't even say it's arguable. It's the most successful, I would say, that
PlayStation game in the last few years, easily.
And especially for that studio, I think Helldivers 2 has gotten way more recognition than the first game did, right? I know what Helldivers 2 is. I didn't know what Helldivers 1 was.
Wasn't it the highest selling game the year it came out? Didn't it end up being the highest selling game? Or am I tripping?
Helldivers 2?
It wasn't it the highest selling game that year? It was the highest first party IP. It outsold Spider-Man 2. So they were at, I think it's like 12 million copies on PC, roughly around 2 to 3 million copies on PlayStation. And then, supposedly numbers now is that somewhere between 600,000 to 1 million at least on Xbox, possibly more, depending on how the weekend goes for the first week and stuff. But yeah, it was PlayStation's personal best-selling game for the past couple of years. The only thing to really outdo that has been, like God of War and The Last of Us and stuff like that.
So, like, when you throw that into consideration, it's extremely interesting to me that they couldn't offer enough to have Arrowhead to say, you know what? Yeah, we're going to continue just trying to do this thing with PlayStation. No. The studio head came out and said, our next game is going to be funded and developed by us. So it's like, but didn't you just have a successful game? Why wouldn't you want to continue that partnership? Right? I mean, that helps alleviate something. There's a lot more. And not saying that Sony still wouldn't help or whatever the case might be, because again, there has to be some partnership there, or maybe they won't. Like, I don't know how far they're going to take that, but I do think it's extremely interesting with how people talk about Sony and say, oh, well, they're all good about game development, they know what they're doing, and that's what you would want. You want Sony to be in your bag and all this great stuff, and then have them come out with a really successful IP for them and say, we're going to do this ourselves. Like Miles Morales, nah, I'm going to do my own thing. And it's like, huh? It's like, it just, to me, when I sit back and think about it, it's like, what are, and maybe that's just what they want to do, because that gives them a little bit more freedom as well. Again, when you're making live service games, you want as many people to jump in day one, and that could just be the make and break thing, and that just could be the make and break thing for them.
And two, enough, but there has to be demand on Xbox too, because I'm sure they've heard plenty of Xbox fans requests, and you know what I mean. I'm sure they got get the data for all of that stuff and the online social media, and they can see, well, you know what, man, like, we're looking at the data. There's a lot of Xbox players that want this as well too. You know what I mean? And they absolutely come off at the type of studio that's going to go out of their way to try and make their community happy, just for the things that they've done with Helldivers 2 so far. So just to see them do what they've done and put it on Xbox, it just makes sense. So I think that might be a studio thing still. Like, you might be right about that.
Yeah, it's just really interesting because for me, outside looking in, it's just not something that I would expect. It's like, damn, I would want to double down that partnership. I would imagine PlayStation is throwing buku money at you because y'all obviously were able to pull in an audience. Again, dog, I don't think people truly understand the social media presence Helldivers 2 had for quite some time. The first 6 months of Helldivers 2 being out, bro, you had wives, you had just everybody that was just showing support for the cause. It was like, bro, I literally haven't seen something like this since like back in the day with a Halo or anything like that. And even then it was just a different time period. So to just see so many people grab onto this and latch on and be for the cause and then have them come out and be like, yeah, we're gonna self-develop our next game, man. Like I don't know. And not have any other details outside of that. I want to see I want to get like a Jason Schreier or somebody else who does do some decent work, I guess. Get out there. I only say Jason Schreier because he always seems to get the T for whatever reason. But I do want somebody to get in there and be like, hey, so what happened? What caused you to say, why would you move away from the most recognizable brand across the board and continue to do business with PlayStation to kind of do your own thing? So, and it could just be creative freedom. I think that's what it comes down to a lot. Too. It's just creative freedom.
I think you're right. I just think it's a combination of different things. You know, creative freedom is big, especially in, you know, nowadays in this industry. And I mean, I think there's something to be said too. I don't really think that even as good as, I'm sure they believed in their game, but I don't think they knew Helldivers 2 was going to be as big of a hit as it was. There's no way. I don't think they could have predicted it was going to be. I think this is all just happening in real time, and they're just kind of on the fly figuring it out. You know what I mean? Because you have to just kind of go through this level of success. You can't really prepare for it. So I think this is them going through it. I think it's a smart decision. Why box yourself in on one platform when the game clearly, you know, is a game that can be played and is going to be enjoyed by so many more people outside of just that one ecosystem. So why box it in? And then you double down on that by maintaining your independence as well too. By saying, you know what? I get it. We appreciate the help on the first game because Sony absolutely assisted on that on the first game and this one,
no doubt.
But we don't want to give everything up. We don't. You can have the IP, that's enough, but we don't want to give up our creative freedom. We don't want to give up our ability to say yes and no. And I respect that about Arrowhead too. Even if the game never was on Xbox, I still respect the way that they've treated their IP. So let me throw this over to you, Fuzz. Get your opinion on this, bro. Just about Helldivers 2 and, you know, the possibility of it going, maybe the next one being multi-plat.
Yeah. Well, like Steele said, it was interesting when, you know, Arrowhead made that announcement that their next game would be fully funded. Like that, it felt like them making that statement were shots across the bow, especially after that was during the time that the rumors were that either they were kind of asking or pushing for it, or maybe Phil was somehow pushing for it coming to Xbox, or it seemed like there were some sort of talks behind the scenes being made. And obviously that shot across the bow maybe woke up Sony to the point where they're like, you know what, let's just get Nixus on this and be ahead of this. Because if they take a game that's been our most successful, you know, games as a service and make another one that's going to probably, you know, take up all their time to the point where we might not see a Helldivers 3. You know, it might be best to kind of keep them under our wing or keep them happy working with us as long as possible, as opposed to making a hit, you know, live service game that's not a PlayStation exclusive or associated with PlayStation, that's a multi-plat from day one. And then now these guys become the next big thing that, you know, all of those contract prices now go up tenfold when Sony does go to, you know, negotiate for like a Helldivers 3 type of deal. So it felt weird. I do agree. It would be nice if Jason Schreier focused on, you know, stories like this and maybe Bungie more so than, you know, the breakup of 343 and becoming Halo Studios. It seems like he only focuses on the bad when it's Xbox and
whole nother show,
just, and he completely looks the other way.
Man,
when it seems
you weren't supposed to notice that. You're not supposed to catch that, Fuzz. Shh, quiet.
No, but it does seem odd that how quickly it went from, yeah, we're going to be doing this game, which they made that public statement, and then, oh, Helldivers 2 is coming to Xbox. It feels like somebody at Sony Corp got the message and was like, you know what? We can't lose these guys. This game is our most successful games as a service. It's the one of the ones that we didn't cancel. And probably somebody at Bungie was like, yeah, get that out of the picture. Kind of. I keep on giving slander for Bungie, but it feels like they were the detriment of games as a service at PlayStation more so than the help. But yeah, I hope they do continue to make a multi-plat game from get-go that's their own self-funded deal. I mean, it is in this day and age, it is hard to do that type of self-funding stuff in comparison to being partnered with a big publisher type of deal. But if they could pull it off, especially considering what they probably made out of the
Yeah, I
contract
was gonna
with,
say,
you know,
15 million
Helldivers 2.
sold. Was it like $40? Was it
Yeah.
$40 from day one? I mean, the price point's there. You sold 50. It made a few hundred million. I would say easily. Well, you know,
Yeah, easily.
Yeah. So if they're able to pull off a self-funded, you know, next title that whatever IP they decide to create, like I like what they've done from the progress of RTS Helldivers to this.
Mhm.
And if they can, you know, maybe not have the same type of Starship Trooper type clone, but you know, maybe they look at another 80s movie that's beloved and spin off some sort of game that people fall head over heels for as well. And you know, maybe that's the thing that makes them a standout studio, kind of like the way Bungie was in the back in the day, kind of thing.
Yeah.
They become the new Bungie as Bungie becomes absorbed by PlayStation type of deal. But
I guess my only thing, Fuzz, you just kind of like jarred my mind when you mentioned that. Is that my only thing is that you have to be careful when you get this type of success.
yeah,
You have to be careful because, like, do you just do what you're good at and say, you know what, we'll just continue to make another Helldivers like game? Yeah, it's a different setting, different characters, different genre, right? Maybe it's not what Helldivers is. Maybe it's not Starship Troopers. Maybe it's high fantasy. But do you stick to the same formula, or do you say, you know what, we want to try a ARPG? We want to try a simulator. We want to try a single player story. We want to try a co-op shooter. That's the interesting thing about this. They can do anything they want. They got the money. They got the funds.
Yeah.
They clearly don't need anybody else to fund the idea. But what do you do, right? Because you don't want to alienate the all, you know what I mean? You don't want to alienate the fan base you already have there by going, you know, what the heck? Like, why are they making a racing game? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? It's like, you know, so at the same time, you want to be creative. You do want to allow your studio to do what they want to do and, you know, empower your developers to do that. So it's interesting to see what they do next.
Yeah. I would have some confidence in that the leadership over at Arrowhead knows the talent that they have within the studio and trust that they hopefully have the creative vision and can stick to it, keep it on budget, keep it in scope, because that seems to be I guess a lot of the bigger issues when a team has success and they try something different or try their own thing. They want to try to do everything and they don't necessarily limit the scope. So sometimes limiting the scope might be the key thing. And looking at like successful games that are a slightly different genre or different play type or vantage point, something like a Space Marines 2, for example. It's more of an old school style game that I won't say it has a limited scope, but it is a smaller scope setup. So
linear,
it's definitely focused on this particular target. It's not trying to be open world with you know 50 million linear quests and
A to Z. Yeah.
So with something like that, I think as long as they stick to a plan and keep it in budget, I think they can be successful. Will it be as successful as Helldivers 2? I hope for their sake it is. But you know, only time will tell. But I like what Arrowhead did with this with Helldivers 2. Definitely would like to see where they would take it for a Helldivers 3. But if they want to do a project in between, let's say a Helldivers 2 and a Helldivers 3, and it's something completely unexpected from them, much kind of like what Playground Games is doing with Fable.
I was gonna say,
being a arcade racer to a RPG game builder. It's like, from what I'm hearing behind the scenes, they have the chops to do it. They hired the talent to help with that, and they're on a good path for that stuff. But we'll see when the end result comes out. Hopefully next year or maybe the year thereafter. But yeah, I think Arrowhead could probably handle it, and it's almost weird. It's like if Only People Could Fly had similar success in their
with
contract.
The
yeah, because it seemed like that game did well as well. It's just that Square took the bigger chunk or took all the money and was like, hey, yeah, we covered our bills, but we ain't got much left over for you guys. So sucks to be you, kind of thing. Or at least that's how it came across. So, and that seemed to screw up their plans of doing a self-funded game. Or maybe they don't have the chops on balancing a budget to do so. But I think Square kind of screwed them out of that potential more so than anything. Now, yeah, there were some things that they probably should have did sooner on their updates of Outriders, or certain things that they shouldn't have focused on, because I think they were trying to make it a little more grindy because people were leveling up too quick, and then they made it so the certain penalties were in place for extremely over leveled players, where it was almost better to remove your boots or remove your chest guard to put you in a lower tier with your buddies that might be a lower tier, and still be able to benefit from it, as opposed to being fully geared and the game having like a exponential difficulty spike kind of thing. But yeah, I think Arrowhead, well, hopefully Arrowhead can pull off their self-funded game, do it in between Helldivers 2 and 3, and hopefully it's a success for them, so we can put them in that group of good developers that are able to make their own games on their own dime kind of thing. So we'll
I agree. So my take as well too on that particular part of what you were talking about. I don't think there's much of a rush to really make a next game. I think you need to go ahead, because listen, the one thing we know about a live service game that works, you can eat off of it forever. And so if you want to, if you don't want to ever have to worry about PlayStation giving you money, just make Helldivers 2 as good as it could possibly be. You can make DLC for 10 years for that game, and people will still buy it and play it. That game will always be a money printing machine if they do what they need to do with it. They maintain the game the way that they have been, and the way that they hopefully continue. So I don't really think that there's much of a rush to make a Helldivers 2, although we us gamers, we like shiny new things, and it would be awesome to see. I don't really think there's much of a rush. I think they need to nail down Helldivers 2, right? Get that. It's already a couple years old at this point, or a year or two at this point. Get that just rolling at this point. You know what I mean? And then get your DLCs down, get your seasons down, whatever you plan on doing for 2. Get those locked in, and in the meantime, you're printing money at that point. Meantime, work on a new idea. You don't need to really rush to put that out, because people are going to be excited. Whenever they announce whatever they're doing, people are going to be extremely excited and looking forward to it. So I don't really think it's much of a rush. And I know Steele brought that up earlier, that maybe they'll just continue to work on 2 and flesh 2 out and do content updates for 2 for the next 3 or 4 years. Maybe they have because think about it too. PlayStation, if I'm PlayStation, I want them to continue to do that to 2. We need some kind of reoccurring income. Like, we don't have really a live service game. So I need that one to be as good as it is going to be, and to continue to go for as long as it can possibly go. Because Destiny ain't doing it. We don't know what Bungie's doing right now. They a Marathon is on the shelf. Fair Games is up in the air. The Gummy Bear game is up in the air. We don't know where this reoccurring income is coming from at this point. So we need that game to be as best as it can until they decide to do whatever they're going to do next. And if I'm Sony, I'm not even concerned with the next game. Just keep this one and maintain this one to the best of your ability, because, it is what it is. But I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up the show on that note. 5:00 on the dot, man. It was another phenomenal show. And first and foremost, shout out to everybody in chat. Appreciate you. I missed a couple things earlier, and I don't want to miss out on the people who support the show. First and foremost, we had Adidas 20, another member for 22 months. Appreciate you, brother. Shout out for you supporting. He said salute. Shout out to you supporting the show as well. Then we had Mac with a $4.99 super chat. Appreciate you, Mac. He said, Fuzzy, I must be an old man, because I play Starfield to play Starfield, not to play Star Wars. I don't think Halo needs StarCraft. So, I mean, hey, you never know, brother. You never know, Mac. Great idea, though. But appreciate all of you guys tuning in, watching the show, man. A nice, easy Sunday, man. No battery this week, no Pong, but I'm sure he will be back next week. And, man, we will welcome him with open arms. But we'll start with you, Steele, man. Appreciate you being on the show. Appreciate you always being here, brother. It's always good to have you on. But let everybody know where they can find you, Steele.
Well, yeah, it was a fantastic show. I'm glad that I could make it, man. Fill in for that missing battery, hopefully. But other than that, man, you can find me, Steel Rain, at Teaser7 everywhere. Frequent the streets of X, otherwise known as Twitter, mostly. Share all my gameplay and everything. You go down my timeline, you see what I'm about. You know, people always advise you to say, you can always tell a little bit about somebody, you scroll through their timeline and stuff, you know, you see, especially like console wars and stuff like that. You scroll through mine, you're gonna see a lot of gameplay, a lot of game talk, sharing indie games and things that people may not be aware of. So come check me out if you're into a lot of that. Uploaded content on TikTok and YouTube. More just gaming gameplay stuff like that, and just some random thoughts that I'll have every now and then on TikTok and whatnot, along with PTK. So you know, appreciate what my brother does there too, man. Always good stuff to hear. And but other than that, yeah, every Saturday morning, live a split screen, non-console centric platform, talking about the majority of stuff going on within the gaming industry. That's 9 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. UK time. Continue to flesh that out. I'm building a library of clips and whatnot, so I can go ahead and start scheduling that stuff out into the future, and maybe potentially have 2 to 3 pieces of content coming out from there on a daily basis for the next month or so. Just starting up that you know, we're trying to blow it up out here. We're trying to blow it up. But nonetheless, yeah, man, if y'all into that, check it out. And PTK, wonderful to be here, man. Always good conversation to be had. And
Yes,
man, much love.
Appreciate you, man. You guys know what to do, man. You guys know how to support the guests here on the Shop Podcast. Go ahead down in that description below. Go ahead and follow Steel. Go ahead and support Live and Split Screen, a great podcast every Saturday morning. So go tune into that. Do your boy a favor and go show some love over there. But I appreciate you being here still always, brother. Anytime I reach out, you always let me know what's good. You always come through as well, too. And I love your takes. I love your gaming knowledge as well, too, bro. So like I said, you always welcome here anytime. And we'd love to have you back soon enough, bro. So my boy Fuzz, man, you got just the two amigos today. But shout out to you for coming through, man. Appreciate you, Fuzz, as well too. But let everybody know where they can find you, G.
Oh, as always, love being on this on Sunday evenings. Love talking about the hobby we all enjoy, and it's always a great time when we have Steel on here. Love his takes as well. The RTS view, I know that you need to make T-shirts on that one. That's
I do.
Much like the Golden Age of Gaming, the
Golden
RTS view,
yep.
that definitely needs to be a T-shirt as well. But always a good time when Steel's on here. Love his takes and views on the industry and gaming in general, and just love having conversations about the games we all love and stuff. But for those that want to hear my rambles and rants on anything gaming related, you can find me on pretty much most social media. Just do a search for Fuzzy Belvedere. You can find me. But yeah, look forward to being here. Same time, same place, next Sunday, same time. Yeah. Hope to see you guys there.
And appreciate you, Fuzz, for coming through. You guys know what to do. Go support Fuzz as well, too. All of that information is down in the description below, man. Last but not least, your host here, ptkblam, man. I enjoy doing this, man. This is like 7-8 weeks for us in a row, man. We're officially back. We got some normalcy back here at the Shop Podcast, but I appreciate every single one of you guys for tuning in, whether it's live now or later on a replay. And I appreciate all you guys sharing out the show as well, too. So we have a great show here, and I just want as many people to know that as possible. If you want to come get that good gaming talk, come holler at us here at the shop. So go tell a friend to come hang out with us, man. We will be back next week. Hopefully all three of us next week, and a guest or two potentially as well, too. But you guys enjoy your long weekend. Go throw something on the grill, have a good time, hang out with the family, and peace out, everybody.
Later.